Hey guys, tonight we're traveling to a place where even emperors couldn't buy a good night's sleep. You're lying beneath a quilt woven with gold thread, surrounded by carved lacquer screens and the soft glow of hanging silk lanterns, and still, you're wide awake. Outside, the pines whisper in the courtyard breeze, but your mind won't quiet. Maybe it's the weight of running an empire. Or maybe it's just one too many cups of fermented rice wine after dinner. Either way, Insomnia doesn't care that you're the son of heaven. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, while you're here, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. I love seeing how global this sleepy little community has become. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie on a low king bed, cushioned with thick silks, embroidered with phoenixes and dragons curling around lotus blossoms. The scent of sandalwood still lingers from an earlier incense ritual. You've tried everything, counting sheep, or rather, imperial horses, pacing the marble corridors in soft slippers, even composing a few sad poems about sleeplessness which your scribes politely praised, though you're pretty sure they were just being differential. The truth is, you are the emperor of one of the largest, most advanced civilizations on Earth. And yet you're at the mercy of the same nighttime restlessness that plagues farmers and fishmongers. It's not fair. You should be dreaming of jade palaces and celestial deer, not staring at the painted ceiling for the 6th straight hour. Outside your chamber, the guards yawn quietly in formation, shifting their weight every so often to stay awake. You can hear the faint rustle of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl. Even the palace cat, that spoiled orange beast who naps all day on silken cushions, is now curled up and snoring. But not you. Oh no. You're alert. Vibrantly, unreasonably, inconveniently awake. So begins the nightly ritual of insomnia in the Forbidden City. And it's not a new phenomenon. Historical records suggest that sleeplessness among Chinese emperors wasn't rare at all. Some blamed the pressure of court life, others suspected poor ventilation or digestive troubles from elaborate 12-dish dinners. But whatever the cause, being awake when you're supposed to be the most rested man in the empire is a frustrating little irony. You try switching sides. Left, then right. Then you do that odd thing where you lie flat and pretend you're levitating. No use. Your mind won't quiet. It hops from military reforms to calligraphy contests to whether your successor is secretly plotting your demise over steamed buns. Historians still argue whether the Song dynasty's infamous bouts of nocturnal paranoia were truly due to political unrest or just chronic lack of REM sleep. Eventually, you call for tea again. A servant glides in, silently as a shadow, holding a lacquered tray. Chrysanthemum this time. You sip it slowly, hoping it'll coax your brain into submission. It doesn't. Instead, you start mentally composing a decree banning tea after sunset. You want follow-through, of course. The court scholars would accuse you of tyranny by sleep deprivation. You glance at the low table by your bedside, cluttered with sleep aids from every corner of the empire, crushed pearl tablets, deer antler elixirs, even a small pillow stuffed with dried lavender and mugwort. None of it works. One scroll claims ancient yellow emperor used to sleep suspended from silk ropes, gently swaying like a baby in a hammock. That sounds unlikely. But when you're this tired, everything starts sounding like a viable cure. There's a certain loneliness to being awake while the entire empire slumbers. You imagine the night watch in distant provinces, farmers guarding their oxen from thieves, monks copying sutras by candlelight. Are they awake, too? Or are you the only one pacing in embroidered slippers past polished red columns, haunted by your own thoughts? To distract yourself, you dictate a letter to your astronomer. Perhaps the stars are misselling. Maybe your birth sign has fallen out of favor with the moon. It's not unheard of after all. This is a world where lunar eclipses can stall military campaigns and comets spark mass poetry competitions. You're not being irrational. Just cosmically sensitive. Still, no sleep. You call for your musicians. They appear quickly, robes rustling like leaves, and begin plucking at gushing strings with sleepy fingers. The melody is soft and deliberate, designed to lull a person into dreams of misty mountains and floating cranes. You do not dream. You stare at the shadow of your own nose cast on the silk canopy above. Historians note that many emperors had private insomnia chambers separate from their daytime halls. These were quieter, smaller, without the weight of political art and court morals. Just you and a handful of trusted servants. Even in these intimate spaces, silence could be oppressive. Sleep doesn't always respect status. And so, night deepens. The wind softens. Your breathing slows, not from fatigue but resignation. It will be another long night. Unless anything new can soothe your anxious mind. Something simple. Natural, unexpected, something like the steady, rhythmic chirp of a cricket in the shadows. At first, you think you imagined it, but there it is again. A tiny, confident trill from the far end of the chamber. A sound so small, so repetitive, it slips between your thoughts like cool river water between fingers. You sit up, Not an alarm, but interest. Where did that sound come from? You send for your attendant, who appears moments later, bowing low. You ask about the chirp. He hesitates, then pulls from his sleeve a small bamboo cage. Inside a single cricket. Glossy. Alert. Unfazed by imperial grandeur. The servant smiles shyly. I thought perhaps he might help, and for the first time in what feels like months, you lean back on your sub-pillow and smile. The next night, the cricket returns, this time in a jade-inlaid cage with delicate slats carved like lotus petals. You wave off the sleeping elixirs, the poultices, and the foot baths. Tonight, you want only one thing, your new six-legged roommate and his very reliable sense of rhythm. He chirps like clockwork. Not too fast, not too slow. A kind of gentle percussion against the soft rustle of silk and the distant echo of palace wind chimes. You find your breath sensing with him. Inhalaker. Exhalaker. He becomes your sleepy little metronome. The court physicians are perplexed. One of them writes a treatise overnight titled On the Vibrational Frequencies of Insect Song and Their Effect on Imperial Humors. You don't read it. You're too busy napping. But the next morning, feeling unnaturally refreshed, you summon your medical staff anyway. You want to know if this cricket therapy is real science or just one more odd success in your growing collection of bedtime experiments. They scramble to assemble their scrolls. One cites an old Han Dynasty record suggesting that mountain hermits kept crickets in clay pots beside their beds to ward off wandering spirits of the spleen. That might be a metaphor. Or a digestive condition. Historians still argue whether the phrase refers to literal spirits or merely the side effects of too much barley. Another doctor brings a chart, carefully drawn, with the 8 sounds of nature most likely to encourage lucid dreaming. Crickets are number 2, right after gentle rain on banana leaves. You ask what's third. The sound of one's own heartbeat in a meditation cave. The doctor replies with too much confidence. You move on. Now intrigued, you begin testing crickets against other natural sleep aids. You try letting a servant pour a thin stream of warm water into a jade bowl for an hour. Calming, but inconvenient. You test wind harps hung over the bathhouse. Too eerie. You consider live frogs. They escape. But the cricket, reliable. You don't have to feed him weird things. He fits into the room's sonic aesthetic. And most importantly, he sings for free, unlike the flutist from the Southern School of Music who charges by the stanza. Word spreads. Soon, you're not the only one with a cricket. Ministers begin appearing at early morning audiences with faint chirping noises coming from their sleeves. You don't call them out. You understand. Not all the court is pleased. One Confucian scholar submits a stiffly worded memorial warning against dependence on the frivolous music of pasts. He recommends moral self-reflection instead. You recommend he spend one night listening to the imperial snorer next door, and then get back to you. Meanwhile, your servants begin taking their cricket duties very seriously. They research breeds. There are long-song crickets, short-song crickets, double-pulse crickets. Some chirp like tiny kettledrums, others sound like a whispered rattle in a bamboo group. Your head eunuch develops a taste for the Shanks striped breed, quiet but emotionally expressive. You hold auditions. Yes, cricket auditions. Little cages line your receiving hall. Attendants gently tap the boxes to encourage a chirp. You sit back and listen, eyes closed, evaluating tone, consistency, and subtle vibrato. One cricket chirps just once, then refuses to perform again. You name him the philosopher. You settle, finally, on a bright-winged male whose chirp sounds like a miniature waterfall cascading over mossy stones. You have a tiny gold nameplate attached to his cage, Night Minister. Of course, this means someone now has to take care of Night Minister. Enter the Imperial Cricket Handler, an official role, newly created, and much coveted. His responsibilities include feeding the cricket slices of cucumber, keeping the cage clean, and ensuring the temperature never drops below pleasant. This man is extremely proud of his job. You once catch him humming lullabies to the cricket. You don't stop him. You begin sleeping better than ever. The court notices. You are suddenly more decisive in the mornings. You issue fewer contradictory decrees. The astrologers stop having to explain your mid-moon irritability in every celestial report. And so, the cricket becomes part of your nightly ritual. After your evening bath in rose-scented water, and before your final sips of cooled plum wine, you check on Night Minister. If he chirps right away, you smile and whisper, "Good job, little one." If he's quiet, you give him a pinch of Malon rind and wait. A few nights in, your chief historian asks if you'd like to commemorate this newfound bedtime piece. Perhaps commission a scroll. A poem. You decline. This feels private. Sacred. Besides, what would the calligraphy say? Ode to my tiny chirping therapist. Yet even among all this calm, questions linger. You wonder, why do crickets chirp at night? One of your scholars explains it's the male's way of attracting a mate, rubbing his wings together like a violinist. You nod, then raise an eyebrow. So. My cricket is lonely. The scholar hesitates. Productively lonely, he clarifies. Still, it nags at you. You request a female cricket be kept near but not in the same cage, obviously. Just close enough that your friend might dream of her. A romantic tragedy in 6 legs. That night, night minister's chirping has extra flair. Tonight, you sip your tea slower. The room glows with a soft orange hue from the lanterns, and your favorite palace fan sways gently in the summer air. You're already looking forward to the cricket's song, your night minister, tuned like a tiny harp. But tonight, the palace physician arrives early. He bows, holding a long scroll, and begins reciting with grave ceremony. According to the ancient principles of yin and yang, he declares, sleep disturbances arise when cosmic harmony is disrupted. The heavens above and the organs within must flow like rivers in balance, or else the body becomes an unruly garden of weeds. You nod solemnly, trying not to yawn. He explains further, the liver governs the ethereal soul, the hun. The hun wanders at night and must return by dawn. If it doesn't, your dreams grow chaotic or fail to come at all. Crickets, he proposes, help guide the hun home with their steady chirp. Historians still argue whether this belief was truly widespread or simply one imperial doctor's creative attempt at job security. Another duist healer joins in. He prefers metaphor. The chirp, he says dramatically, is the earth's heartbeat. When the world sings softly, the emperor may rest without fear. You decide that's lovely. And while you suspect half these theories are invented on the spot, you admire the effort. At least they're trying something more soothing than a tiger bile tonic. Later, the court astrologer requests your presence beneath the open sky. He gestures to constellations swirling in the summer canopy. There, he says, pointing to a faint cluster. The heavenly insect. When that star rises, sleep becomes thin. You squint. It just looks like slightly damp darkness to you. But who are you to argue with the stars? Back in your chamber, you begin to take this celestial explanation seriously. You order a copy of the treatise on star positions and emotional dampness to be read aloud each night. This may be your worst idea yet, it's essentially 300 pages of star maps, and the occasional line about mood swings. You fall asleep halfway through the second night, but only because your cricket is chirping underneath the astronomer's droning. You start to wonder whether your sleep problems ever truly needed fixing. Perhaps being awake at night is just part of your rhythm. So it feels nicer with a cricket in the room. Reassuring. Like, the empire is still alive while the palace slumbers. A tiny song that keeps the world spinning. A Confucian advisor, overhearing this thought, mutters something about the mandate of heaven and insect metaphors being beneath your dignity. You ban him from evening audiences for being such a downer. Eventually, you begin receiving letters from distant provinces, requesting your imperial opinion on local cricket chirping quality. One magistrate in Sichuan includes a hand-painted chart comparing the songs of different species by season. You skim it. You're mostly impressed that he found a way to rhyme sibilance with persistence. Inspired, you commission a formal study, the therapeutic role of nocturnal insect song in the pursuit of celestial harmony and digestive calm. You instruct your scholars to keep it under 40 volumes. They submit 42. Meanwhile, the court begins following your lead. Empresses, concubines, even the kitchen manager now own crickets. Your corridors echo with gentle chirps like an accidental orchestra. It's calming, though some nights it sounds like the empire is being run by a very well-organized meadow. Still, there are quirks. One noble requests a duel between his cricket and yours, claiming he owns a champion war singer. You decline with dignity and an eyebrow raise. This isn't about dominance, it's about sleep. Though, later that night, you do whisper to your cricket, "Yout of one." As cricket culture grows, so does your collection of accessories. You receive carved cricket pillows, jade cages with cloud motifs, even a lacquered travel case for mobile soothing. One artisan presents a tiny hammock for your cricket, insisting it helps relax the vocal cords. You don't use it. Night Minister prefers the classic bamboo perch. His old school. With all this fuss, a new problem arises. People begin confusing the method with the meaning. Everyone wants the perfect cricket. The loudest, the rarest, the one that chirps in minor thirds. They forget that the magic lies in the quiet company, the steady rhythm, the feeling of not being quite so alone in the dark. You watch this unfold with mild amusement. Let them chase their perfect chirp. You already have yours. One night, a monk visits the palace, having heard rumors of your sleeplessness and your now famous cricket. He sits with you in silence, then says, "The sound that brings you rest is the sound that lets go of control." You blink slowly. So. Crickets are Zen masters. He nods once. Some chirp. Others listen. It sounds like nonsense. But that night, Night Minister is silent. And you sleep just fine. The air is thick with jasmine as late summer stretches into autumn. By now, your palace rituals have changed. Gone are the endless remedies and awkward stretches suggested by the Tai Ching master with far too much enthusiasm. Now your evenings begin with the soft click of a bamboo latch as your cricket's cage is gently placed by your bed. Tonight, however, something unusual happens. As you recline against your silk pillows, eyes half-lidded, you notice the room is silent. You lean forward. No chirp. You clear your throat. Nothing. Did he escape? You whisper, alarm. Your attendant assures you the cage is secure. Perhaps he's tired, Your Majesty, he says, gently tilting the bamboo box. The cricket moves, unbothered. But still no sound. You lean in closer. I can raise taxes. You just have to chirp once. Nothing. You sigh. Perhaps, you think, he needs company. And that is how you stumble quite accidentally into the most charming obsession of your reign, collecting crickets. You don't mean to become the Empire's leading expert. It just happens. One day you ask for a second cricket, and within weeks, dozens arrive in little cages from every province. Some come with handwritten notes, a modest singer from the Yellow River Valley. Best chirper this side of the Yunks. Please name this one after my cousin. Your desk becomes a forest of cages, each one containing a different personality. There's a loud one. A moody one. A tiny cricket who only chirps after sunset, and prefers melon over cucumber. You begin taking notes. Cricket keeping, it turns out, is an art. You learn to recognize the best habitats, narrow cages with echo chambers carved from guards, silk screens to block wind, and tiny water cups to keep the air moist. Some cages are simple bamboo. Others are made of ivory, tortoise shell, even silver filigree. You favor the understated ones. Night Minister lives in a box with smooth plumwood slats and a roof shaped like a scholar's hat. Soon, your palace staff is divided into factions: the purists, who believe only local crickets are worthy, the experimentalists, who advocate cross-regional pairings, and the acousticians, who obsess over cage acoustics like they're tuning imperial zithers. One eunuch begins a logbook, recording daily chirp frequency, tone consistency, and feeding preferences. Another hand paints tiny name tags. A third develops what might be the first ever cricket lullaby, which he hums each night as he makes the rounds. Your chamber becomes a concert hall. Not a cacophony, oddly, but a gentle layering of pulses and rhythms. It feels alive, like a breathing forest, delicate and melodic. You no longer dread nightfall. You welcome it. Every evening, after court business is done and scrolls are sealed, you wander the cricket wingies, now a wing of your private quarters. You pause at each cage, listening, murmuring greetings. Some crickets chirp in response. Others seem to nap. One plays dead for sport. You call him the trickster. One night, you dream you're inside a giant cricket cage, listening to the earth hum beneath your feet. But not everyone shares your passion. One of your generals visits, and is clearly baffled. You're telling me. These insects are courtiers now. You smile. Only the musical ones. Another advisor, bolder, warns that your attention to insects may signal weakness. You suggest he try staying awake through 30 years of dynastic pressure without going slightly whimsical. He does not speak again. Yet even among the skeptics, a strange thing happens. One by one, they come to borrow a cricket. Just for a night, they say. My daughter's been restless. Or, I wonder if it helps with dreams. You pretend not to notice when the crickets are returned a week later with custom-made pillows. Historians still argue whether your cricket obsession was a personal quirk or a genuine cultural movement. What is certain is that during your reign, demand for cricket cages soared. Artisans from Suzhou became famous for their gourd carving skills. Entire markets sprang up dedicated to chirping quality. One poet even declared crickets to be night's most trustworthy companions. You like that? You begin commissioning mini paintings of your favorites. Night Minister is portrayed lounging on a cucumber slice, while another sits atop a mooncake. You display them in your tea room. Visitors are confused. You are not. In time, you begin gifting crickets to foreign envoys. The ambassador from Korea is both flattered and alarmed when presented with a lacquered cage and a handwritten note reading, "To soothe your travels." He likes soft songs. The ambassador does not sleep well for several nights, but grows fond of the cricket anyway. As the seasons shift, you notice changes in your collection. Some crickets begin chirping more slowly. Others fade into silence. This is expected. Life is short for these creatures. But you are no longer upset. You understand now, they are not meant to last. They are moments, fragments of quiet bottled in song. That night, you sit alone in your chamber, sipping tea, surrounded by half-asleep crickets. You smile. The sound of the Empire isn't gongs or horns or shouting generals. It's this, a quiet chorus, barely louder than breath, singing just for you. You never thought you'd be wading through to white grass and silk slippers, but here you are following a cricket hunter through the imperial gardens just before sunrise. He walks barefoot, moving slowly, whispering things like "listen for the stubborn ones, and the fat ones hide under guards." This is the world of cricket collecting. By day, you're the ruler of a vast empire. By night and now early mornings you're crouching behind a flowering shrub, trying to spot a tiny insect with a strong vibrato. The irony is not lost on you. More is the sudden realization that you've never actually done this yourself. You've only ever received the crickets, not hunted them. Until now. The collector points to a shadow under a pumpkin leaf. You lean down. There it is. Sleek black body, long antennae twitching. He nudges it gently into a small, Hollowed guard with a piece of grass. No cages yet. First, a test. He holds the guard to his ear. The cricket chirps once. Then again. Soft, but confident. You grin. Well, call him Whisper. The art of collecting crickets is older than your ring, older than most things, really. Some historians claim it dates back to the Tang dynasty, when children tied strings to the legs of wild crickets and carried them like living kites. Others insist it began in remote villages where grandmothers believed that a singing cricket in the home could ward off bad dreams. Either way, by your time, it's a full-blown craft. There are regional preferences. The north prizes strength, the south favors tone. In the cities, cricket scouts train their ears to pick out a champion's song in a crowd of chirps. In the countryside, farmers trade them like seeds. You even hear of a village where the local teacher holds annual cricket appreciation exams. The top prize is meal on slices and a painted guard. Your team of imperial cricket hunters expands. One eunuch becomes obsessed with terrain. Play soil, he explains, eyes wide, makes better legs. Another studies diet. Feed them cooked rice. No salt. One servant begins composing sonnets based on chirp cadence. You don't stop him. Every full moon, you organize a midnight hunt. You and your closest attendants creep through temple gardens and mossy stone courtyards, listening, waiting. There's something deeply meditative about it. No court petitions. No wars. Just crickets and the stillness between chirps. You begin to understand why people fall in love with this hobby. It's not just about the sound. It's the quiet pursuit. The moment of discovery. The way you must earn the song. At court, these excursions become legend. Artists illustrate you tiptoeing through reeds, looking mildly bewildered but spiritually content. One painting shows you handing a cricket to a small child. Caption, the emperor who shared the moon's song. You keep it in your study. You begin corresponding with naturalists and sages. One monk writes a scroll-length essay titled The Way of the Hidden Singers. It includes tips on capturing them ethically, how to recognize overworked chirpers, and why naming a cricket after a fruit is lucky. That part sticks with you. Soon, your cages are labeled with names like lychee, longan, and winter plum. They chirp well. You wonder if it's the names. Or just the Milan snacks you keep slipping them. And yet, not all crickets sing. Some are shy. Some save their voices for strange hours. One only chirps when the palace cat is nearby. Historians still argue whether such selective chirping was a product of breed, temperature, or emotional manipulation by tiny six-legged doves. Still, you respect the silence. Those quiet crickets become part of your ecosystem. You imagine them as dream holders, absorbing noise rather than producing it. You give them calm names: mist, echo, lantern. Of course, you're not the only one hunting. Word spreads, and cricket gathering becomes competitive. Nobles send scouts to poach, singing hot spots. One particularly ambitious duke hires a flute player to lure crickets out of rival gardens. You respond by issuing an edict banning musical interference within 10 li of the palace. This is the moment when your chief general knocks on your door. Majesty, he says carefully, the treasury reports an unusual number of payments labeled insect-related. You smile. Good. He clears his throat. Should we reassign some funds? You consider it. Then shake your head. Not until Whisper finds a duet partner. And so the collecting continues. You now have a small side court devoted entirely to the cricket keepers. It's peaceful. Always smells faintly of cucumber and damp grass. Some say the air there improves sleep. Others call it the softest corner of the empire. One evening, as you're inspecting cages, a little boysen of a kitchen maid approaches shyly. He holds out a guard, both hands trembling. Inside, a tiny brown cricket with one crooked leg. It sings when I sing to it, the boy says. You crouch down. The cricket chirps. A little uneven. A little offbeat. But undeniably sweet. You smile. Is perfect. You name it lullaby. Your nights are now less about silence, and more about harmony. As autumn ripens, the imperial palace is awash in sound not of drums or shouting ministers, but of delicate, syncopated chirping. A subtle orchestra. And to your ears, more refined than any string quartet. You've begun to pay more attention to the musicality of it all. Not all crickets chirp the same, of course. Some sing in sharp pulses, others in long, rising waves. Some chirp in triplets, like a flute hesitating on a mountain path. Others are bold and brassy, like a fanfare played through leaves. One evening, you bring in the court musicians. Listen, you command, gesturing to a cage. They obey, some nodding, some frowning. Now play that. The guzheng player plucks uncertainly. The pipa player tries to match rhythm. You smile. Closer. Softer. Like his whispering from inside a bamboo forest. This becomes your new obsession. Turning cricket song into music. You assign a team of musicians to transcribe cricket rhythms. They use a special notation system, dots and lines and curled symbols, because traditional music scores can't capture the erratic beauty of chirps. They call the result chongpo, or insect tablature. At first, the scholars are baffled. Is this music? One asks, scratching his head over a squiggle. Or a drone of startled wind? You nut. Both. Historians still debate whether your insect-inspired musical compositions ever reach the provinces. Some claim fragments of cricket music show up in folk melodies centuries later. Others think the whole effort was a charming imperial indulgence. One thing is certain, you were the first emperor to host a concert of crickets and strings. You call it the Night Sonata. The musicians sit in a circle, their instruments tuned lower, softer. Between them, gauges of your finest chirpers. The goal isn't to play over the crickets but with them. To let them lead. To let silence breathe between the notes. The performance lasts hours. Guests fall asleep halfway through, lulled by overlapping lullabies. You stay awake. Not because of insomnia this time, but because it's beautiful. Later, you transcribe your favorite cricket rhythm and carry it around like a charm. You begin recognizing crickets by tone. That one, you say, pointing to a dark green male, has perfect pitch and minor. Your head musician rolls his eyes but secretly agrees. You invite poets next. Describe this chirp, you say, holding out a cage. It sounds like tea steam, one offers. A distant brook under moonlight, says another. A sharp longing, says the third, dramatically. You award them all silk handkerchiefs and move on. Eventually, you build a kind of sonic garden in one wing of the palace's series of interconnected rooms, each tuned to a different cricket. One sings best at dusk. Another prefers candlelight. The largest room features two chirpers placed on opposite ends of a water basin to echo each other in soft ping-pong call and response. Visitors step in and go quiet. They have to. The crickets demand it. It's like walking into a sacred music hall designed by tiny monks. One noblewoman asks to record a song in memory of her mother. You help her choose a chirper whose rhythm feels like gentle rain on roof tiles. The court calligrapher writes a scroll transcribing the pattern. It's hung in her family shrine. You're proud. But as with all art, debates arise. A southern duke insists cricket chirps follow the 5-note pentatonic scale. He presents diagrams, hand-colored and suspiciously overconfident. A northern magistrate argues they follow no scale at all, that crickets are wild musicians sent by heaven to teach us humility. You just like the sound. Still, you humor the arguments. You even commission a cricket opera performed entirely by humans mimicking chirps through flutes and soft percussion. It's terrible. You stop it halfway. And tell everyone to just bring their cages instead. That night, the true opera unfolds without effort. A chorus of your favorites sings together in harmony, in a room with no audience but you. You lean back, eyes closed, and think, there is something inherently musical about life when you stop trying to control it. A melody beneath the noise. A pulse in the dark. It's not the grandeur that soothes you anymore. Not the soft robes or the jade pillows or the poems. It's the simple rhythm of something small, consistent, and unconcerned with empires. That night, you fall asleep before your tea cools. It begins, as most absurd luxuries do, with a competition. One afternoon, after a satisfying nap, thank you, whisper and night minister, you overhear two ministers in the garden arguing not about trade, or policy, or the merits of Confucian ethics, but about whose cricket cage is more acoustically optimized. You pause. Intrigued. They notice you. One bows, flustered. Your Majesty, we were merely debating. Hair. Cage resents. That's all it takes. By sunset, you've declared an official imperial cricket cage exhibition. The entire court erupts into action. Artisans from the finest workshops in the empire are summoned. Bamboo, plumwood, jade, ivory, guard, tortoiseshell, every material known to the furniture and jewelry worlds is now on standby for insect real estate. Some artisans go traditional, light, breathable bamboo slats tied with silk thread. Others go avant-garde, rotating cages, sound-enhancing guard amplifiers, even double-story models for the active cricket lifestyle. One official insists his cage is feng shui compliant. Another insists his is blessed by a monk who once saw a very musical butterfly. You, of course, commission several. Your favorite is a plumwood cage carved in the shape of a moon gate, with a single gold inlay that spirals like a melody. It has a tiny ladder inside, in case your cricket feels like exercising, which, to be fair, he never does. Historians still argue whether this explosion of craftsmanship boosted trade or simply distracted from pressing tax reforms. But there's no denying it sparked a design renaissance. Entire guilds devoted themselves to perfecting airflow. Scrolls were written with titles like The Sacred Geometry of Guard Chambers and Echo, Silence, Chirp, a philosophy of miniature acoustics. Soon, cages aren't just homes. They're instruments. You instruct each cage to be tested. Crickets are rotated through like wandering bards. The best cages make the chirps clearer, more resonant, less tinny. You hold late-night listening salons, where nobles gather in candlelit rooms to sip tea and nod sagely at tiny insect performances. It's delightful. But it's not just sound that matters. You begin to notice how light affects your crickets. One sings better under lanterns trimmed with yellow silk. Another prefers the natural moon. You assign it units to chart these preferences. His scroll includes categories like preferred candle color and wind draft aversion yin. Eventually, one cricket clever little thing stops chirping unless placed on a particular windowsill. You name him the Duke of Location. To accommodate these sensitive artists, your palace undergoes subtle redesigns. Rooms are softened. Harsh corners are curtaining. Drafts are blocked. Cushions are added. Even the walls are repainted in softer hues. It's like living inside a giant sleep mask. You don't mind. In fact, you feel calmer, lighter. The court becomes quieter, more observant. People speak in softer voices, pause before interrupting. Even the scribe's brushes seem to glide more gently. And the cages begin appearing in poems. One court poet describes a cage as a lullaby with slats. Another calls it the house of hush. You tear that line out and paste it above your bed. Even visiting officials start taking notes. A Mongolian ambassador requests a cage for his tent, something rugged but poetic. You send him one carved from mountain gourd, wrapped in red thread. Weeks later, he sends back a sketch of it beside his campfire. Cricket culture spreads. In the market, merchants begin selling miniature cages as charms. Children trade drawings of famous crickets, complete with stats like preferred pitch, mid-high trill. A chef creates a dessert inspired by cricket chirps and almond wafers that crackle softly when bitten. And through it all, you sleep better than ever. Not because of the sound, necessarily, but because of what it all represents, attention. You've built a world that notices small things. That slows down. That treats an insect's nightly hum as worth honoring. That night, you sit alone beside a cage made of bone-white porcelain, so thin it glows like moonlight. Inside, your newest companion chirps soft, persistent, confident. The rhythm is imperfect, but soothing. You breathe slowly. This, you realize, is your empire now. Not just of land and armies and scrolls, but of details. Of quiet. Of warmth. Of tiny wooden ladders that lead nowhere except maybe inward. It's only a matter of time before someone suggests it, a cricket tournament. At first, you laugh. Surely they're joking. But your steward bows deeply and says, Majesty, cricket fighting has long been a pastime in the provinces. You raise an eyebrow. You mean actual fights, with actual crickets? He nods. There are rules. Traditions. Referees. You sip your tea. Tell me more. And thus begins the most bizarre chapter of your imperial cricket saga. Turns out, cricket fighting is a well-established folk sport in certain corners of the empire. Not a chaotic brawl, but a gentle, ritualistic contest. Two male crickets placed in a shallow ceramic dish, gently encouraged with a thin strand of grass. They raise their wings, chirp, nudge. Occasionally, they wrestle. The loser retreats. No fatalities. No blood. Just honor and a faintly awkward sense of pride. Intrigued, you approve a demonstration. The court gathers in the hall of gentle triumph. You recline on a raised cushion as two champions are presented. They're housed in elaborate travel cages, one guard carved with flames, the other painted with plum blossoms. Their names, Thunderfang and Quiet Avalanche. A hush falls. The referee, a tiny man in spectacles, taps the dish with a fan. The crickets emerge. They circle. They chirp. Thunderfang lunges. Quiet Avalanche twitches. There's a flurry of movement, a dramatic pause. And then Thunderfang retreats. The crowd exhales. He nods slowly. It's like poetry in miniature aggression. Historians still debate whether you truly enjoyed the matches or simply appreciated the novelty. What's certain is that, within weeks, cricket fighting becomes the hottest evening activity at court. You commission a special arena, a low jade dish with etched dragons circling the rim. Silk cushions surround it. A tiny gong announces each match. Betting is strictly forbidden, but everyone bets anyway, in the form of poem wagers and dessert pledges. Of course, there are purists who object. One Confucian scholar submits a scroll titled The Frivolity of Insect Violence. You thank him and assign him to night guard duty near the goose pond for 3 weeks. Unsurprisingly, his tone softens. Meanwhile, your cricket handlers begin training routines. Each fighter is fed specific diets. Some prefer sticky rice, others crushed mung bean. Some are massaged gently with goose feathers to awaken their energy. You catch one eunuch whispering encouragement into a cage. You are swift. You are proud. Remember your lineage. You pretend not to hear. There are scandals, of course. One noble is caught applying chili paste to his cricket's legs. Another smuggles in a beetle disguised as a rare northern chirper. A third claims divine visions prompted her cricket's victory. You confiscate her gourd and award it to the runner-up. But overall, the matches remain surprisingly dignified. You enjoy the tension, the theatrical stillness before movement, the slow circling, the polite nudging. It's strangely hypnotic, like watching a dance where neither dancer is entirely sure they want to be there. You begin assigning titles to the victors: champion of the whispering wing, master of the jade bell, the unyielding song. You even compose a short ode to one fighter named Little Thunder Cloud, who won 4 matches before retiring into a life of contemplative silence. Soon, your evenings follow a steady rhythm, tea, a quiet match or two, then a return to your chambers where Night Minister and Whisper await in their usual corners. You nod to them as you enter. They chirp in acknowledgement. Or indigestion. Hard to say. The matches aren't about competition anymore. They're about tradition. Ceremony. A reminder that even in a life filled with scrolls and decrees there's room for something smaller. Your generals remain baffled. Majesty, one grunts, these are bugs. You wave a hand. Bugs who understand dignity. He says nothing more. Some nights, the matches end in a draw. The crickets stare at each other, indifferent. The crowd waits. Nothing happens. You smile. A tie, you declare. Like old warriors saluting. Eventually, a particularly clever official suggests integrating the cricket matches into the lunar calendar. You approve a festival, the night of soft clashes. Lanterns are lit. Tea flows. Poems are exchanged. And somewhere in the quiet court, 2 tiny champions nudge each other under candlelight. That night, you lie in bed, listening. Your champion chirps once, then falls quiet. You whisper, good fight. And sleep. It begins innocently enough with a name. You're sipping your usual post-match chrysanthemum tea when an attendant enters, cradling a small guard cage. This one is exceptional, he says with the solemnity of a man announcing a new star in the sky. He chirps 6 different rhythms within the hour. You raise an eyebrow. Does he have a name? The attendant hesitates. We've been calling him Midnight Thunder. You pause mid-sip. Perfect. You nod slowly, ceremoniously, and gesture for the cage to be placed on the central stand beside your bed. He shall have the place of honor. And just like that, the age of named crickets begins. It makes sense, really. Horses are named. Swords are named. Why not crickets? Especially those that have, in their tiny, wing-rubbing way, earned a place in your sleepless heart. Soon, the palace is teeming with grand titles. Golden Whisperer of the South Garden Sir Chirps a lot, the 5th Echo Plumshade Brawler Tea Time Companion. You start keeping a register, the Book of the Chirping Court. It's bound in silk, with hand-painted illustrations beside each name. Every entry includes favorite foods, notable performances, preferred sleeping temperatures, and inevitably a short biography. Midnight Thunder gets it. Full page. Born of a guard warmed under autumn sun. Chirps with rising cadence. Defeated quiet avalanche in a match of astonishing composure. You keep his cage cleaner than your teacups. His melon slices are hand-carved into flower shapes. You even assign him an official, cricket steward of the inner course, a title previously reserved for someone who managed royal bath oils. This doesn't go unnoticed. Within days, ministers are naming their crickets things like Justice Incarnate and Resonant Policy. One claims his chirper improves legal decisions. Another insists his cricket consults dreams. You smile and let them be. The court has been more peaceful since the crickets arrived. Of course, naming them leads to favorism. You begin to take offense when someone forgets a name. That's not the green one, Minister Jine. That's Akode Silk of the Western Pavilion. He blushes and bows. 1,000 apologies. You accept them, but secretly move his cricket down the official ranking board. Yes, there's now a ranking board. It began as a casual chart, kept by the eunuchs, but quickly evolved. Crickets are evaluated weekly on consistency, volume, uniqueness of rhythm, and temperament. A surprising number of them have recognizable quirks. Lotus Bell chirps every time someone lights sandalwood incense. Hushed Lightning refuses to sing unless it's raining. Glorious Dumpling, named by a hungry scribe, once chirped in perfect time with a bamboo flute solo. You start tracking their behaviors with almost scientific precision. The best ones are given custom cages, silk underlay, and priority placement near the imperial bedside. But naming does something else, too. It makes them personal. You begin talking to them. Not out loud, of course. You are an emperor. But in your mind, they're little companions. Fellow insomniacs. Boats who never learn to hold brushes. At night, you sometimes sit cross-legged, whispering through the slats, "Good work, Thunder. Your tempo was elegant tonight." He chirps once. You take it as gratitude. You even hold a naming ceremony. It's quiet, just you, your steward, a cup of plum wine, and a freshly hatched chirper. You gaze into his cage, consider the slight tilt of his antennae, the proud stance, the dramatic silence. You name him Inkstorm. He doesn't chirp for 3 days. You assume his brooding. Soon, others follow suit. Concubines hold tiny tea parties to introduce their crickets. Generals commission banners for theirs. One scholar even proposes cricket horoscopes, born under the fire star, prone to syncopation. And yet, as all things do, this creates tension. A noble complains that Moonlit Shiver is unfairly receiving more melon than others. A steward accuses a rival of secretly switching cricket nameplates. One minister demands a trial over the true identity of Celestial Fritter. You sigh. Then order a round of ginger cookies and reassign everyone to poetic meditation hour. Still, it's worth it. Because when night falls and you're nestled into your silken cocoon of sleepwear, surrounded by the soft, dignified chorus of titled crickets, you feel human, small, comfortably unimportant. You glance at Midnight Thunder's cage. He chirps, then pauses. You smile. A dramatic pause. You're feeling theatrical tonight. He chirps again once, sharply. A solo. You lean back and let the name echo in your head. Midnight Thunder, the Imperial Companion. The wind shifts. Autumn's last leaves cling to the palace trees, their edges crisp and golden, like pages from an old scroll. The stone floors grow cooler underfoot. Attendants begin replacing summer screens with thick brocade drapes. And inside your chamber, the first whisper of frost curls against the windows. Winter is coming. And winter, as you now know, is not kind to crickets. You've been warned. Even your most optimistic handlers grow solemn. They're summer creatures, one says, bowing low. They sing best when the air is soft. But you're not ready to let go. You instruct your staff to begin preparations. Cages are moved away from drafts. A small charcoal brazier is placed beneath each table. The warmer crickets are, the better they sing. You have new silk wraps sent in quilts to lay gently over the cages when night falls. A whisper of skepticism drifts through court. As the emperor becomes soft, one official mutters. You overhear this while sipping ginger tea and cocooning a gourd cage in lamb's wool. You choose not to respond. You'll let the crickets answer for you. And they do. One by one, as the chill deepens, your favorites begin to adapt. They chirp less, yes, but more thoughtfully. Their songs are slower, more deliberate. A kind of musical introspection. It suits the season. Still, some struggle. You commission tiny warming chambers, boxes of polished cedar with soft felt lining and ventilation holes. Each has a single beeswax candle, lit only under supervision. It's the most extravagant heating system for insects in recorded history. Probably. Historians still debate whether this period, sometimes called the Winter of Gentle Fires, was a genuine breakthrough in insect care, or a brief, charming bout of imperial excess. You don't care. The chirping continues. That's all that matters. Soon, a new nightly ritual forms. Before bed, you perform the warming of the crickets. It's dignified, ceremonial. Attendants line up with the heating chambers. You gently transfer each cricket, always with clean hands, always with quiet breath. Each chamber is lit with care, the cages suspended above like lanterns in reverse. The soft glow, the quiet chirps, the scent of cedar, it becomes your favorite time of day. Some evenings, you bring in guests. Not nobles, but gardeners, calligraphers, tea servers, people with calm eyes and patient hands. You share your warmth. One girl suggests naming her cricket Snowfall. You approve with a nod. Her eyes light up. Outside, the city braves frost and early sunsets. Inside, the imperial court hums with warmth. A quiet rebellion against winter's stillness. But not all crickets endure. Midnight Thunder begins to slow. At first, it's subtle. A skipped beat. A pause between chirps. Then thuds. You wait. A full night passes. You open his cage. He moves, sluggish but alive. You place him closer to the brazier. Offer a slice of apple. Whisper encouragement. He stirs, raises one leg, then nothing. You sit beside him for an hour. Finally, one soft chirp. Then sleep. But the writing is on the palace wall. Your companions are creatures of cycles. You've extended their music into snow season. But even emperors can't stop time. You hold a quiet council with your stewards. I want no more cold cages, you say. Each one is to be brought inside, close to firelight. Let them fade gently. Your attendants bow, solemn. A new role emerges, night watcher of the silent cages. Their duty is to check in on each retired cricket, even those who no longer chirp. To keep them company. To thank them. Your court adapts. Cricket poetry turns elegiac. Artists paint still cages against snowy windows. Even the skeptical ministers admit there's something noble in it. You receive a letter from a northern governor. The palace has taught us to honor even the smallest life. My son has begun whispering goodnight to our crickets. You read it twice. And so winter deepens. The chirping fades, one cage at a time. Some pass quietly. Others go out with a final, proud trill. You give each one a name. If it didn't have one, you write a line of verse. A farewell. A thank you. One night, you place Midnight Thunder's cage near your pillow. He no longer moves. But his there. You sleep soundly. In the morning, snow falls gently across the courtyard. The palace is unusually quiet now. Not in the eerie way silence sometimes creeps across an anxious court, but in the soft, padded way that follows snow. The hush of cold stone under felt slippers. The distant shuffling of servants replacing burnt-out oil lamps. The faint whistle of wind against silken window coverings. And somewhere in your chamber, a small bamboo cage empty. Midnight thunder is gone. You find him curled beneath a bit of guard peel, legs drawn in as if mid-thought. The cage is still warm from the brazier. He had a peaceful night. A last lullaby, unspoken. You sit for a while, holding the cage in both hands. It feels wrong to do nothing. So you don't. You declare a ceremony. Not a grand, blustering one with trumpets and banners, but a simple gathering. Close attendants. Poets. Gardeners. Those who whispered names through bamboo slats and counted chirps like stars. It's held in the pavilion of quiet steps at tucked-away hall by the lotus pond. You walk there at dusk, holding the cage wrapped in silk. Snow falls in slow spirals. Lanterns flicker. A flutist plays something almost melodic. Almost. At the center of the pavilion is a small altar, lacquered wood, incense curling upwards. You place the cage upon it, then kneel. A court poet reads the elegy you requested. He's saying as if time would never notice him. But we notice. And we rest better for it. The others bow. Some press their fingers to the floor. No one speaks. It's beautiful. You establish a new tradition, cricket farewells. For every companion who passes, a line of verse is written, a candle lit, a tiny bell rung. Their cages are placed in the Hall of Resting Songs, a newly built annex lined with shelves and soft paper windows. A library of silence. Each cage is labeled, its name inscribed in gold ink on a slip of mulberry paper. Visitors walk through slowly, respectfully. Some leave dried fruit offerings. Others just breathe quieter. Over time, it becomes a sacred place. But for you, it's personal. Each time a cricket leaves, you remember its quirks. Echoed Silk, who chirped only at dawn. Plumshade Brawler, who once refused to lose a match despite being half the size of his opponent. Little Thundercloud, who sang only during snowstorms. You keep a journal, the book of songs remembered. Not a formal record, just your reflections. Scribbled phrases. Sketches. One page reads, Night Minister stopped chirping today. He listened to everyone else, then left without a sound. That's how I want to go. Your advisors begin whispering. They say you're too attached. That you've lost your grip. That building mausoleums for bugs is not a sign of stable leadership. You respond by promoting the cricket memorial attendant to the rank of 5th Palace Steward. The whispers stop. One evening, a visiting monk asks to see the Hall of Resting Songs. He walks its length slowly, then says, This is the quietest place I've ever heard. You nod. Good. He adds, There's something holy in how you've honored small things. You nod again. Better than statues. After he leaves, you sit alone among the cages. The sun filters through the paper windows, casting long, slatted shadows. You swear for a moment you hear it. Single chirp. But the cages are still. Historians still argue whether this period marked a philosophical shift in your reading less about glory, more about reverence. Whether your growing affection for these crickets reflected deeper thoughts about power, time, and the nature of legacy. You don't argue. You just write another poem. He sang only once. I heard it every night. That night, you sleep beside an empty cage. And wake rested. You'd think that the death of your most beloved crickets would mark the end of your fascination. But no. If anything, their silence opens a new chapter of strange discoveries, darker corners, and whispered deals in alleys where nobles dare not tread. Because what happens when the palace runs out of song? When the chambers fall still, and the golden cages remain empty? You send for more. And that, unfortunately, is how you learn about the cricket black market. It starts innocently. A minor official brings you a new cricket, chirping with surprising vitality for the middle of winter. His from the south, the man says proudly. Smuggled in a peach box. Still warm. You lean in. The sauna. Unusual. Almost too perfect. Something about the rhythm makes your eyebrow twitch. You ask where, exactly, the official obtained him. He stammers. You raise an imperial eyebrow higher. He confesses. A network. Secretive. Operates under the silk stalls in the night market. Offers exotic crickets, firewing singers, snowproof chirpers, and twilight trillers, all with names like mythical beasts and a price tag to match. Naturally, you dispatch an undercover unit. What he finds is fascinating. The cricket underground is robust. There are smugglers who line their sleeves with padded pouches to sneak insects past checkpoints. Forgers who paint faint stripes onto dull crickets to pass them off as rare breeds. Traders who coat cage interiors with herbs to make even the laziest chirper squeak. And the deals. Outrageous. One noble pays the equivalent of a riverboat in gold for a cricket that chirps in what he insists is perfect iambic pentameter. Another is swindled into buying a beetle with glued-on legs. You're simultaneously horrified and impressed. Historians still debate whether you cracked down on the black market to uphold moral order or because you were simply annoyed someone else had better crickets. In any case, you take action. But not by banning the tradno. That would only drive it deeper underground. Instead, you do what emperors do best, you absorb it. You declare a new title, Imperial Inspector of Nocturnal Acoustics. Their job. To license and regulate all cricket trade within the capital. All crickets must be heard, catalogued, and certified. Unregistered chirping will be met with stern frowns and the confiscation of melon slices. Within weeks, order returns. Mostly. Still, rumors persist of whisper circle secret gatherings where collectors pass around forbidden breeds. One especially persistent. Tale speaks of a man who bred a cricket that chirped backwards. You never confirm this, but you do find a note in your chambers one morning. He only sings when the moon winds. Come alone. You decline. What fascinates you most, though, are the fakes. Some sellers have begun crafting false crickets, tiny wind-up contraptions carved from bamboo, rigged with silk and spring to mimic the chirp. Ingenious. Slightly terrifying. You acquire one out of curiosity. It's beautiful, really. Painstakingly crafted. Chirps on cue, every 10 seconds. But you know it isn't real. There's no pause. No personality. No moment of uncertainty. You place it beside your bed anyway. Just once. It chirps. And chirps. And chirps. Eventually, you get up and place the little machine outside. Let it fool the courtyard foxes. Because here's what the black market can't replicate: a connection. You can forge the soft stutter of a cricket that's unsure. You can bottle the silence before the first trill. You can't program that little hiccup when a chirper shifts in his cage, as if repositioning his thoughts. So, yes, you investigate the market. You regulate. You observe. But when it comes to bedtime, you always return to your own carefully raised companions. Crickets who were caught under twilight, fed fresh leaves, and sung to by handmaidens with clear voices and warm breath. Still, you allow the black market to exist. Quietly. Carefully. Because even among the forgeries, there are real ones. Unexpected melodies. Hidden treasures. One evening, a gardener's nephew appears at your gate, holding a plain clay gourd. Inside, a cricket no bigger than a tea seed. He doesn't look like much. But when night falls, he chirps. Not loud. But perfect. You name him Dustlight. No registry. No fanfare. Just a song that feels like a secret. At first, it's just a whisper among the palace attendants. He sings only when no one watches. Then it spreads to the kitchen staff, the laundry girls, the boy who polishes, the lacquer on your writing desk. Don't shoo it away, they say. It could be someone. You're in the garden pavilion one evening when your tea mistress casually mentions it. A cricket had hopped onto her sandal the night before. She hadn't the heart to move. Might have been my grandmother, she said, half smiling. You blink. Pardon. She shrugs. The old women in my village used to say. Well, loved one dies, sometimes they come back as a cricket. Just for a visit. You lean back, slightly chilled. Not from fear. But from the sudden sense that this isn't just your palace anymore. The next day, you ask around. Quietly. And discover something wonderful. The palace is full of stories. A soldier claims he saw a cricket perched on his father's old helmet, the night he returned from a long camping. A seamstress keeps a cricket near her loom. She says it always chirps when her baby stirs, even before the nursemaid hears. A gardener insists a silent cricket appeared the day his wife passed and hasn't left since. You don't scoff. Not even a little. Because deep down, you get it. These aren't just bugs anymore. They're symbols. Carriers of memory. Voices of something too soft, too old, to write down. Historians still argue whether the belief in ancestor crickets was widespread folklore or palace superstition amplified by one eccentric emperor. Either way, you allow it. No, you embrace it. You issue an edict. No cricket, regardless of location, shall be harmed within the imperial grounds. All chirping shall be respected. The imperial carpenters craft tiny ancestral cricket shrines made of hollowed-out gourd halves with silk linings. They're placed on windowsills, inside writing desks, beside bedrolls. Some are empty. Soon, a new custom takes root. When someone in the palace loses a loved one, they light a stick of incense and whisper through the slats of a cage, "Come visit, if you like." Sometimes, they leave a sugar cube. Sometimes, just silence. You find one such cage tucked behind the laundry hall. Inside, a chirper sings hesitant, stuttered, lovely. You leave a fresh leaf, and walk away without saying a word. That winter, a scholar presents you with a bound scroll titled Crickets in the Veil Between Worlds. It's part essay, part poetry, part speculative theology. He claims certain cricket songs match old funeral chants. That the vibrations are spirit adjacent. You reward him with a pot of plum wine and a guard cage of his own. In your own chambers, the line between insect and memory begins to blur. One night, a cricket lands near your inkstone. You pause mid-sentence. It chirps once, then vanishes under the curtain. You smile. "Father," you say, mostly as a joke. No answer. But you leave the curtain open anyway. Some crickets, they say, bring warnings. One chamberlain swears his chirper stopped singing the night before his mother fell ill. Another claims her cricket paced its cage the day her brother's ship went missing. A few of your more theatrical courtiers begin consulting their ancestral insects before signing contracts. You don't stop them. Because somewhere deep in this melodic mess, there's comfort. A soft thread connecting breath to memory, sleep to dream, past to pillow. You find yourself speaking more gently to your crickets. You say things like, thank you, and sing as long as you like, and once, embarrassingly, I hope you're not bored. A few don't sing at all. Silent watchers. You let them be. You even begin keeping a visitor's log. A little notebook where you jot down the time and location of surprise chirps. 2:11 am. West window ledge. Sharp. Brief. Or after reading grandmother's poem, heard soft trill by tea tray. Your stewards begin to worry. One says, Majesty, are you well? You seen? Distant. You reply, no, I'm just listening. That night, you have a dream. You're walking a hallway of guard cages, each one glowing from within. You hear familiar voices. Not loud. Not clear. Just, known. You wake smiling. For the first time in a long while, your room is quiet. And still, it feels full. You sit alone on the balcony of the southern library. A rarely used nook where the sun filters in like warm broth, and the birds are quiet enough not to compete with the memory of cricket song. It's spring now. The frost has long since lifted from the rooftops. Plum blossoms dot the courtyards again. The sky returns to its bluer moods. But inside your palace, a curious hush lingers. The old crickets are gone. The cages remain cleaned, polished, lovingly arranged along shelves and sills, but their singers have slipped quietly into memory. And with them, the nightly soundtrack of your reign has softened into echo. You wonder, sometimes, if your newer officials understand what those chirps meant. To you. To the court. To the empire, even. You suspect they think it was all a charming, eccentric face. A hobby. A quirk. They weren't here during the long, sleepless years before the chirping began. They didn't know the weight of a still room. Still, change must come. Even to the cricket wing. Your advisors gently suggest refreshing the chambers. Perhaps it's time, Majesty, for music again, one says. Or fountain, something more. Architectural, do not. And then very calmly, you decline. Because in your mind, the absence of chirping is not a void. It's a space held open. A silence earned. But even you must admit a court is changing. The younger ministers rise early. They speak of reforms, naval expansion, trade treaties with lands that haven't yet been named. They are ambitious, fast, practical. Few of them keep crickets. One of them even asks, were they ever really that musical? You send him to inventory scrolls in the damp western archives for 3 weeks. And yet, there is still a corner of the palace where the old ways endure. In the whisper garden, an enclosed courtyard surrounded by plum trees and wisteria, the wind sounds very much like cricket song if you listen just right. The gardeners swear a few wild crickets still nest beneath the stones there. No cages. No names. Just wanderers, singing because they can. You visit often. You don't bring attendance. You just sit. Listen. Smile. And sometimes, only sometimes, you feel like the world hasn't moved quite so far forward without you. One afternoon, a young boy from the servant quarters appears at your study door. His maybe 6. Grubby hands. Holding something. A cricket. It's in a tiny guard, clearly handmade. Crude slats. A thread for a handle. Inside, a small, lively chirper. Singing like he has something urgent to tell the world. I heard your majesty likes them, the boy says. You take the guard gently. You don't say much. Just, he sounds lovely. You ask his name. The boy blinks. You smile. The cricket. Oh, he says, fidgeting. I call him Pebble. Perfect. You place Pebble's guard on your desk. He sings for the rest of the day. That night, you light a candle beside him. Just one. No heating chamber. No meal on slice. No nameplate. He chirps once, then settles in. You whisper, thank you. Later, you draft a new edict shorter than most. Let it be known that all cricket cages, no matter how worn or silent, shall remain where they are. Not as relics. Not as curiosities. But as reminders. Of a time when even the smallest song made the world more bearable. You sign it. Seal it. Sleep deeply. In your dreams, there's a room filled with chirps. Familiar ones. New ones. Some uncertain. Some bold. You walk through it slowly, smiling. No one speaks. There's no need. Time, like the seasons, circles back on itself in quiet ways. Years have passed. The palace no longer echoes with footsteps like it once did. You rise more slowly, sit longer, and find greater joy in the small acts, brushing ink on a page, sipping jasmine tea while watching the sky drift from pale gold to soft blue, listening for sounds that aren't always there anymore but used to be. Your crickets are gone. Not just the ones you raised, but the culture itself. The court no longer hums with tiny songs or debates about cage acoustics. The new ministers are busy with maps and ships and coins. Even the artisans who once carved cages now shape furniture legs and ceremonial fans. No one names crickets anymore. But you remember. You keep the old cages. Every one. Displayed across a long hallway in your private residence. A corridor of silence, yet it isn't empty. Each one holds a story. You still run your fingers along their slats sometimes, half expecting to feel warmth, hear a trill. In the morning, you walk through that hall and nod as if greeting old friends. And then one evening, while the sky glows with the orange haze of another vanishing day, something changes. You're sitting in the Whisper Garden. The plum trees have bloomed early this year. Their blossoms litter the stones like confetti from some ancient celebration. You watch them fall, soft and slow, and wonder if you're falling too. Then you hear it. A chirp. Just one. Faint. Hesitant. From the edge of the stones, behind the old sundial. You freeze. Another chirp. Clearer this time. No mistaking it. You resigently, carefully unfollow the sound. Behind the sundial, nestled between two warm stones, you find him. A cricket. Wailed. Small. Singing. You don't touch him. You just kneel beside him, heart full, eyes stinging. He chirps again. As if to say, I remember you too. You sit there until the sky fades to indigo, and the lanterns blink to light. No cage. No guard. No name. Just song. Later that night, you take out the last empty keg, the one carved from plumwood with a lattice like falling leaves. You place it on your bedside table, not to use, but to honor. And beside it, you place a folded piece of paper. A poem. No more names. No more bells. Just breath and time and wind. Still, I listen. Still, you sing. You lie back beneath your quilt. No guards at the door. No astrologers in the wings. Just you, and the thought that somewhere beyond the walls, the world still hums. You close your eyes. And sleep. Let the images fade now. Let the plum blossoms drift to the stone. Let the cages, once filled with music, rest in stillness. Let the warmth of old bamboo and gourd curl around the edges of your thoughts like smoke rising from incense you barely remember lighting. There's no need to follow the story anymore. There's no need to remember which cricket sang what song, or which tiny warrior nudged another into silence, or which poet gave which name to which fleeting chirp. It was all just part of the same quiet rhythm. A little breath in the night. A ripple on the surface of a still pond. The soft click of a cage door closing not to trap, but to shelter. As your mind drifts further, the lines between emperor and listener blur. You are no longer in a palace. No longer in a bed embroidered with dragons. You are in your own space now. Your own. Silence. But listen. Just for a moment longer. There it is. Faint. Reliable. A chirp, tucked into the folds of your dreams. Not because you summoned it. Not because it was tame. But because it wanted to be heard. One last time. So rest now, traveler of time. Of empires. Of quiet nights and soft cages. The story has settled. The song is still out there. But tonight. Let it go. Let it sing for someone else. And for you sleep.